Dr. Berger.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. President. Each year, by statute and our local policy, DCA, we have a tax rate hearing. A little unusual thing about the tax rate here. We'll be setting the tax rate for the current fiscal year, even though we've already approved a budget. So it's a kind of a little more to the guessing game of putting together a budget for a school district. But a few things that we show that I'll point out are first, assessed value by category. And so here on by category, there are actually three subcategories in real estate down here. Residential, commercial, and I have to look at my notes, residential and ag, of course, yeah. And so that equals up to the $259 million for FY17. Personal property, which for the most part is vehicles, equals up to the $44 million. Combined, the $303 million is about a 0.5% increase from the previous year. So it's a few details of our tax rate, which has also been published in the newspaper. So what we assess against that tax rate, what the district assesses, is the $275, recommending the amount as previous year. And I kind of smile when I say recommending. It's the state minimum. There are 520 some odd school districts in the state, and we just got our data in from the previous year, and there are now 29 of us out of that 520 school districts that still assess at the 275 level. Everybody else is well above us. And so when we take that 275 times the assessed value, we get an amount of $8.3 million. So that 275 on our $75 million budget, that 275 drives $8.3 million, which, as we've seen, as we've educated the Board of Education, I think educated the community a little better recently, really is a small amount in comparison to our comparison school districts, and really to all school districts. There are only 29 of us still in the state, still at that 275. Point out one last thing: debt service is zero. And that's a little more uncommon for school districts, particularly of our size, because we have no debt in our debt service fund. So our B2 funding allows us to pay for projects out of the district till, so to speak, and not levy a bond issue. So it's typical to see a school district have anywhere from 30 to 60 or 60 to 70 cents in debt service. So with that, I'll conclude the tax rate hearing. If there are no questions. And there'll be an action item that will be attached to this later on in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I call the meeting to order, and would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Keeling. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Quinn. All those in favor by a show of hands. So moved. Item 4A, citizens participation. Dr. Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. We did not receive any requests for citizens participation under policy BDDH.
Item 5A, written communication.
We have no written communication to distribute either.
Item 6A, military liaison update.
Good evening, Mr. President. Just like to put out kind of recruiting for a position. Fort Leonard Wood currently has a position open as a school liaison officer. That's a career position, it requires a degree, but that's actually the position that works between the installation and the school district at the ground roots level, working with parents and school teachers and so forth. It's a critical position, and those people that are interested, those that might be interested in applying for the job, it's USA Jobs, and the announcement closes on the 22nd of this month. So it's a great opportunity for someone who likes to work with military families and also work with the school. And the second update is our PI, Partners in Education, all the military units. The good news is that all of our schools will be covered with a unit up on Fort Leonard Wood. And our inaugural meeting will be the 13th of September at 8:30 in the morning. Those administrators or those that would like to come and attend, they're more than welcome. But that's also the organizational meeting with all of our units. And lastly, I know I'm going to say country and western, but all Cole Swindell will be here on Sunday at 7 o'clock. You're all invited. The event is open to the Fort Leonard Wood community and our partners in St. Robert and Waynesville. And so that's all I had to report, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Item 6B, district announcements.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I want to say congratulations to our Piney staff that's here for that. We're going to recognize them this evening for their PBIS Bronze Award, correct? So looking forward to that. Great job, and appreciate all that you do for our kids. First day of school is going to happen here really soon. The first day of school for the 16-17 school year is Wednesday, August the 17th. It will not be a late start Wednesday since it's the first day of school. Following this, however, all Wednesdays will begin 30 minutes later than the other days. Career embedded credit, we have about 10 Waynesville High School students who will participate in our career embedded credit pilot program this fall by working at the Chamber of Commerce and the Pulaski County Tourism Bureau. In addition, we have 8 high school students who will be participating in internships on Fort Leonard Wood. I want to thank our community and Fort Leonard Wood for working so well with us in that process. Students are going to get great real-life challenges and real-life opportunities to prepare for their careers in college. Participation in a national study, we have been selected as one of 5 school districts to work with the Lexington Institute on a study on military-impacted children, educating military-impacted children. So we're very excited about this. We will have a researcher in our community in about a month, so we'll have a great opportunity to share the wonderful things going on in our school district. Transportation and buses. Buses will run late the first few days of school. Please help keep our children safe by slowing down while you're driving. They get very excited, and sometimes they're pretty excited to sprint off the bus, so please be careful when you're driving around the buses. 8th grade students and seniors will need the meningococcal vaccine. Due to a new requirement by the state of Missouri, all 8th graders and seniors are required to have the meningococcal vaccine before school starts in August. Several clinics and pharmacies now offer the vaccine, and Mercy Clinic will offer one more meningococcal vaccine tomorrow, Tuesday, August the 16th, from 5 to 7 p.m. And meningococcal, say that 4 times fast right there. So that was my tongue twister for the evening. Thank you, Mary Ann. Meet the Teacher Nights. We'll host the elementary Meet the Teacher Night on August the 16th. High school Meet the Teacher Night will be on August 18th, and middle school Meet the Teacher Night will be on August 25th. We'll also have at Waynesville Middle School an open house starting at 5 p.m. on Thursday, August the 25th, for the public to come and tour our facilities and see the schematic drawings for the new academic wing that will take place in our renovation project. I'm happy to announce that we do not need a bond for this construction project because all the funds are coming through our B2 heavily impacted aid funds. B2 funds are federal funds, not local funds, so our federal government is helping pay for this project, and we like to see those monies flowing into our community. Military Appreciation Night will be September the 16th at the WHS varsity football game when we play Rolla High School. And also, just a note, school messenger attendance calls will not go out this week as we're working on transitioning that to our new e-school system. So we'll have no school messenger attendance calls. However, we will have calls for buses if need be. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Item 7A, bid recommendations. Dr. Berger.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Fulmer, and want to point out one of our projects on page 2 of the bids, parking lot asphalt, and I'm at risk of belaboring this point with the board. I know I've done a little education recently on the Fund 4, Fund 1 expenditures. This, as most bids, are Fund 4. This is one-time expenses, and this was a project that we've kind of kicked the can down the road, so to speak. This is kind of like keeping on putting money into a car so this is a complete overhaul of this asphalt that would be the most part of the high school. It doesn't include the newer asphalt that's over here at the 9th grade center that came with the high school completion project, but it is a pretty sizable project. But you can see the results of the last few years as we keep patching and patching and patching, and each time we put a cut into that asphalt, that actually does not do well for the life cycle of the asphalt. So Fund 4 expenditure, sizable one, and we're going to do it now while we can, of course, pending board approval.
Any discussion? Mr. Keaton?
Also, when I saw that, I talked to Dr. Berger, and we met down there, and we walked the whole thing. And of course, it's just because of my background, I used to do that kind of stuff. But we walked that. We went up to the high school tennis court. Let me tell you, the tennis court needed it. It's almost unsafe what's up there, even though we've done repair on it and stuff. But it's coming big old gaps and stuff and cracks running through it and everything. But there was probably, you know, we always did evaluation. You looked at the age of the asphalt. This is 13 years old. There was probably 13% by criteria that we used, a thing called paver. About 30% probably is in failure. There's probably another 25% that's probably within 1 year of failure if you don't repair the first part. And then the rest of it, maybe maximum of 3 to 5 years on that. And so after walking around, I can support this.
Okay.
And the price, I had asked Kevin if how many square yards, because that's in asphalt, you use square yards, 2-inch, you know, that kind of stuff and everything. Really good price. I still can't calculate in my head anymore, Kevin, but it's about $7 or something. Yeah, that's a real good. Anything under 10 is a real good price. So
Okay.
I can support it. But I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you. Item 7B, financials.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. August 10, 2016, Missouri Securities Investment Program, $39,027,609.04 in CDs, 10.5 with the Bank of Crocker. General account is $4,189,914.45. Payroll account, $11,138.72. Insurance account, $877,567.06. Total funds, $54,606,229.27. Start our year out.
Questions? Okay. We have the study session minutes for July 18th meeting, the regular Board of Education meeting for the July 18th meeting, the closed session minutes for the July 18th meeting, the special Board of Education meeting for the July 19th and 20th meeting, the special closed session Board of Education minutes for the July 20th meeting, and the special closed session Board of Education minutes for the August 2nd meeting, and we will approve those as they stand. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Schultz, second by Mr. Anderson. All those in favor by a show of hands. So moved. Item 8A, staff recognition. Ms. Dr. Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight, we're going to recognize Piney Ridge Center for their implementation of the PBS program this past year. They were recognized in June for earning bronze level status, and they just completed their first year of implementation, so that was the first level that they are eligible to earn. They put in a lot of work in order to earn this recognition, so we would like to recognize the staff of Piney Ridge Center. So who are we handing this to? Thank you. We appreciate you for all the work you do with our students.
Item 9A, revised job description, first reading. Ms. Bales.
Thank you, Mr. President. The following attached revised job descriptions are presented for your review as a first reading. 4.06.3, Transportation Dispatcher. 4.07.1A, Transportation Secretary. 4.071B, Transportation Secretary. And 4.07.2, Routing Specialist Driver Trainer. The administration will request approval at the we are requesting approval at this board meeting. Or actually, I'm sorry.
No,
I lost it. We are
First reading.
presenting these to you as a first reading. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Item 7B, MSBA board policy updates. Dr. Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Everyone's favorite reading material here in front of you. This has been through the TABS committee. essentially, as we spoke about in study session, the big addition to these policies would be the uniform grant guidance through the federal government. They're requiring now that certain stipulations are put on bidding, conflict of interest, and some of those other things. That's really the bulk of this, and we also have some additional procedures attached. So this is a first read. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time, or if you see those after you have read through all of those, make sure you let me know, and we can address those.
Questions or concerns? Okay. Action items, 10A, 2016-17 tax rate. Dr. Berger?
Thank you, Mr. President. And as we illustrated earlier in the tax rate hearing, and at this point, we just need a motion to approve the continued operating levy of $275 per $100 of AV for the FY17 school year, please.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Schultz, second by Mr. Keeling. All those in favor by a show of hands? So moved. Item 10B, policy BBFA. Dr. Henry?
Yes, as mentioned in study session, policy BBFA is our conflict of interest policy that must be approved prior to September the 15th. Essentially, the only difference in this policy compared to the ones we've had previously is the implementation of the uniform grant guidance in there. So I'd be asking the board for your approval on policy BBFA.
Questions? Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Keeling, second. Second by Mr. Schultz. All those in favor by a show of hands? So moved. Item 10C, 2016-17 tuition rate. Dr. Berger?
Yes, there's an attached calculation sheet that's used by the district to set the tuition rate based on the actual per student education cost. Though the tuition rate isn't used very often, in the event it was, motion to approve the FY17 school year tuition rate at $9,800.
Any discussion? Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Anderson. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Swant. All those in favor by a show of hands? So moved. Item 10D, Memorandum of Understanding for Career Embedded Sites. Dr. Henry?
Thank you, Mr. President. This kind of wraps up the formal process of making sure our students are able to go out and work at the Chamber of Commerce, the Pulaski County Tourism Bureau. Also, I apologize, there was the late entry of our MOU from Fort Leonard Wood for our students serving in various roles out on the post as far as internships go. But we do have those now taken care of. So with your pending approval on this, we'll be able to start students here. I believe we set up August the 19th for the first day to be at the Chamber. And then Dr. Pattison's working with Fort Leonard Wood also on getting our students out in the internships.
Questions, concerns? This excites me that we're going to allow our students to experience some real-world applications of what they learn from the district, and we've got some tremendous partners in this endeavor, and I think it will be great, especially with Fort Leonard Wood and with the community, the local community. So with that, I take a motion.
I also am very pleased and proud of this opportunity for our students, and I agree with Dr. Fulmer, and I make a motion to this.
So moved. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Quinn. All those in favor by a show of hands? So moved. Item 10E, Early Separation Incentive Plan. Ms. Bales?
Thank you, Mr. President. Attached for review is the proposed early separation incentive plan. This was discussed at the July Board of Education planning session. The administration is requesting approval at this time.
Any questions or concerns? Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Anderson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Schultz. All those in favor by a show of hands? So moved. Item 10F, Athletic Trainer. Dr. Berger?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Once again, the 16-17 athletic trainer agreement with Affinity Orthopedics and Sports Therapy is attached for board review. Motion to approve the athletic trainer agreement with AOST in the amount of $10,000, and that is the same amount that was last year.
Questions? Do I have a motion?
Make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Schultz. Do I have a second? Mr. Keeling. All those in favor by a show of hands? So moved. Item 10G, Facilities Plan Update. Dr. Berger?
Yes, thank you once again, and we'll go through the presentation, but also attached to board docs is actually the facility plan. And a few years ago, 3 years ago, I guess, we started working on the facility plan and actually have a bound document. We'll have it, actually have planned to put it on our tab for my department this year, as we can go back and use it as a reference, and it has some pertinent documents that really kind of guide the facilities plan for the district. So in the presentation, which we have done annually for years and have now do that biannually, we'll just taking a quick review of the district facilities, but we'll take a minute to pause on the needs schedule and discuss that just a little bit. I brought also along here, because I know the board and anybody watching this can read, but attendance numbers, they will not match Dr. Henry's attendance numbers that we looked at enrollment. They'll actually be a little higher, so they'll be a little inflated, I think, for the most part. But as I think it's a good review to know how many kids we serve in these buildings. But start out with the high school, and of course, what we'll have going on here is this asphalt project. Where we serve, we usually say 1,600. I took the May enrollment summary, and we ended at 1,515, but we usually refer to it as serving 1,600 kids, which is just awesome to me. Big building, big needs. You can see the schedule in terms of things we've done recently. Waynesville Career Center, just an awesome building. I don't have those enrollment numbers. If Dr. Passman would whisper those in my ear. How many children do we serve there? About 900 students. That's, of course, from all the area sending schools, but a fabulous building and relatively new, so it's not taking on a lot of needs recently. Waynesville Middle School, on the other hand, has. And of course, that'll be the focus of a lot of conversation and board reports and such as we enter into phase one, and remind the board that phase one is estimated to be about a $20 million cost. Phase one will make this building, very serviceable as is at the end of phase one. There are 2 other phases that follow up with on that on Waynesville Middle School as funding allows. Coming down the pike, so construction document phase is currently what we're in. Soon we'll be getting a cost estimate, and district will be reviewing the cost estimate and the construction documents. And so we're looking at that much more about the Waynesville Middle School this fall. 6th grade center, fabulous building. Waynesville Middle School will kind of be a sister building to this, and so the outside will kind of look like 6th grade center, especially in all 3 phases when they're completed, but even in that first phase, also on that new academic housing. But 6th grade center, we do have a little cafeteria issue that's on our needs schedule that we're trying to work through, and Ms. Smith's done a good job of kind of getting through that, but probably under-spec'd on the cafeteria just a little bit, but it's hard to find anything critical about 6th grade center. Freedom Elementary School, another great school. I'm not giving you the numbers like I told you I would. Jump to Freedom. At the end of the year, we were serving almost 900 students there at Freedom, so relatively large elementary, but and we lost a compressor right out of the gate on Freedom would be the latest and greatest news. And when we lose a compressor on one of these buildings that's zapping about $178,000 worth of electricity, that's typically a $30,000 to $50,000 expenditure. So you remember in the budget we have that contingency funding, and I really hold out that we'll have some of that contingency funding to put to other things that we'd like to do, but we have to have some for the things we have to do, and this was an example of one. So I think we're up and running with all 4 compressors now. Nope, we're still on 3 is the latest word. So, but we'll be soon, and we can run it with 3. We just can't run it very hard, and don't want to run it very long. East Elementary, my numbers, 970 to close last year. And of course, the latest thing we've done to that is the FEMA shelter, and that's worked out really well. It'll realize a few changes, especially out of the gate here. And Ms. Hayes has been wonderful about what's going to be going on with transportation, because it does impact her parking, does impact tomorrow night. With Meet the Teacher, and so we'll get through that, and then in the end she'll have expanded her parking just a little bit, at least her parking spots. She'll give up a little playground and gain some parking spots. So this has been the subject of a lot of board topics of recently, the last couple years, but the PIC Educational and Volunteer Facility. So we did a remodel on that, fairly light remodel because the building was in fairly good order, and what I do remind the board here is that really this has 3 phases that we're going to go through. One is to get PIC educational volunteer facility up and running. The second thing is what we'd really like to do is create some community space, and that would be more in the rear of this facility, and it would be a classroom and a gym, and then we'd see how much that's being utilized. But we'd put that on our facility request forms, and we could have folks that could request the gym out there, which we're hoping will be beneficial to our families out on post. And then the third is to master plan the building, and I would expect to be kind of starting into that at the very end of this year, this fiscal year. And we're right now we're going into master planning for a K-5 facility. Wood Elementary School, of course, that's a recent move, and that's really worked out good. Again, Dr. Henry reported on those numbers, but Wood Elementary is now it is no longer our highest populated elementary. And we looked in the crystal ball, took some guesses on that, but we did guess right, and we were well informed to do that. But that's really fit well for our population of about 350 kids there, and we'll probably see that shrink up just a little bit more too. We anticipate, so we don't think capacity will be an issue. Partridge Elementary School, great building. Haven't done a lot with that. I think the last thing noted there is we put some perimeter fencing, and that came from our security study of post schools. We're going to kind of dust that off and bring that back out, and we're going to review that again because we're having our town schools reviewed currently. That reviews should wrap up in the next, say, 4 to 6 weeks, and we'll compare what we can do for our post schools and our town schools and see if there's other security measures we can put forward. Williams Early Childhood Center, wonderful. We'll see on the needs schedule. I have parking expansion on it, so underspec maybe just slightly for the parking, and it's really, those are two really softballs. I mean, they're really, you can't overspec parking, you can't overspec cafeteria typically in a new building, and so we got some work to do on that. We'd really like to be helped out with early childhood special education funding. Right now, they've got a hold on capital projects, and I'll speak to that on the needs schedule in just a moment. Thayer also has a little bit of parking expansion that we'd like to consider sometime in the future, and we'll look at that on the needs schedule as well. Thayer ended last year at 262, so. Administration buildings, I know the board's familiar with, and some of our visitors probably too, but we did have a entry redesign and security. Last year we wrapped that up, so it kind of funnels everybody to the front. It is a security issue, but it's also a management issue. We don't have folks wandering around frustrated. We're a large school district. Typically, out of the 520 school districts, we're in the top 40 now, even with our decline. And whenever your folks are walking around up there looking for, they don't even know what department. We used to find them in the hall and kind of direct them, but now they meet a smiling face at the front counter and get directed, and it's much more efficient. And there is, like I say, a safety issue as well. Maintenance and food service, haven't done too much there. I know Kevin's guys took a little bit of couple 3 days and put a concrete floor back here in this warehouse right here. Actually, maybe a room to work on some mowers and put a floor in, so that was a good improvement there. Transportation Department, again, we've launched phase 1 of that. Been a little bit of delay with that. It's not going quite as fast as what we'd like, but it never does. But we plan to be on schedule by the time this thing wraps up. We think after we get through just a few of the little quirks that we've hit at the beginning, this thing will really lay out well. It'll be a big improvement in terms of site for transportation and ready it well for phase 2, which would actually be the facility itself. This is a total, of many of the things that we have. Support services often don't get a lot of attention. This is grossly undersized, the facility. So again, pending funding, we'll look to attack phase 2, and we are able to put a little bit of that through a depreciation schedule with DESE and get a little bit of the money kicked back. So. Sports complex, wonderful facilities, very relatively new anyway, and you can see the utility usage over in the right there, but athletic fields, again, no real recent improvements because, gosh, they're both brand new. Of course, Slaughter new due to the flood, but nonetheless, 2 premium turf fields, as good as anything, better than anything in the conference, I like to say. So very proud of our facilities. Modular classrooms, we pulled this out and gave you a little bit of detail, but the big news is Board is aware, we declared those surplus. They're gone. They're already off schedule. We're always happy to get rid of modular classrooms, really when they're new, and these things were far from new, as you can see. And Kevin and his guys spent more time than they needed to down there working on those. So we're glad to kick those down the road and very excited to start phase 1 at the Waynesville Middle School. Want to spend just a moment here, and this again, along with capacity studies, the updated CSIP as it pertains to facilities, let me think what else, the needs schedule, the transportation and Waynesville Middle School designs are all found in the complete document of the facility plan. So you can look at those for any time at reference, and you've got those in board docs. They'll also be on my tab. You ever want a bound copy, we can sure give that to you. But as you see there, we have the asphalt overlay at Waynesville High School. I put in there the way I revised this year was we want to look just 1 year what we did, and then currently, and then of course what we're looking at in the next few years. But finally got the high school completion project for the most part under wraps. We have some paperwork issues that we're still dealing with a little bit, but all the work, the manual work is done. Career Center, we have no identifiable sizable needs. Now, that doesn't mean Dr. Patterson doesn't have needs. She does, and I know especially with some of the program considerations that are going on in her program, those will be funded in large part or by some part, and I say large part, by some of the revenue streams that she has. But in terms of what we'd be trying to identify, just a great building, and it's new, and it's just perfect. I mean, people comment on the Career Center all the time. It's wonderful. Waynesville Middle School, a lot of work. Phase 1, and then as you see, Waynesville, phase 2 and 3 through 1822. 6th grade center, we got that cafe expansion. We're talking about that. I mean, we're always doing much smaller things. I think we got some soundboards I approved a requisition for, and those will be installed. So this only captures the big things. I'm going to look at Freedom, and you see that asterisk, and that asterisk is there because we do have a notice of interest for a second FEMA shelter. Ideally, that would be a 75-25 match. So the federal government would pay 75, we'd pay 25%. We're in the hunt. I don't know when the next round will come about, but we are in the hunt of those. And if you'll notice, we're actually in the hunt. We don't have notice of interest in, but we actually have as our alternative site in the notice of interest is east. So if they found something, we don't anticipate that they just terribly did not like about Freedom receiving a FEMA building. Again, I think that's very unlikely. We, as a contingency, set up another one for East Elementary, and we'd be able to use it if we can get a 75-25. And submitting that notice of interest does not obligate the district at all. So if funding fell out, if there was something we didn't like, we'd have plenty of opportunity to back out of that. But if you'll notice, I've got those over here because ideally we'd like every facility to have a FEMA shelter, and that includes our post schools. Ironically, at this point, FEMA is not, we don't qualify for a FEMA grant on post because it's a federal government military installation. Now, there have been some hints that we might work with Garrison and see if we can get some movement on that. We haven't reached out to, I barely made mention of the outgoing Garrison commander, but we'll be reaching out to our new Garrison commander and trying to make some inroads there and see if there is anything we can do. You know, they're telling us right now that that's not an option, and yet we get a couple other people that say, there's an option there. No one's done it, but it might be workable. But we certainly feel like if we've got 350 kids in an elementary on post, then it warrants a FEMA structure, particularly if our town schools have that accommodation. So. Williams, I mentioned that. We're kind of banking, or not banking, but we're waiting on early childhood special education funding. Ms. Bell's got sick of me asking for the request last year, and I expect Ms. Washington will get more of that too, but we'll be requesting that again and trying to give some funding for that. Would renovation wrap up FEMA and kind of lays out there transportation again down here at the bottom, phase 1, and then pending funding phase 2 for the facility. That last document kind of gives the summary of the whole picture. Please ask any questions tonight or any other time regarding the entire document that is found in board docs. Mr. President, I would ask for approval of the facility plan.
Do I have a motion to approve the facility plan as presented?
So moved. I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. O'Reilly, second by Mr. Keeling. All those in favor by a show of hands. So moved. Item 10H, 2016-17 ambulance agreement. Dr. Berger.
District has received a proposal from the Pulaski County Ambulance District to provide the services for 16 and 17. This proposal includes providing dedicated coverage for all home football games, 7 through varsity preseason, varsity scrimmage, and jamboree, 20 regularly scheduled games, and any postseason football games that might take place. Motion to accept the Pulaski County Ambulance District proposal for FY17 in the amount of $4,000, and that amount is the same as last year.
Any questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll make that
Motion by Mr. Keeling. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Quinn. All those in favor by a show of hands? So moved. Item 10I, proposed revision to the 2016-17 staffing plan with a waiving of the first reading. Ms. Bales.
The following proposed revision to the 2016-17 staffing plan is presented for your review and consideration. An addition of 1 early childhood special education paraprofessional. The administration requests approval regarding the above name revision to the 2016-17 staffing plan with the first reading waived.
Do I have any questions? Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Anderson. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Swant. All those in favor by a show of hands? So moved. Item 11, closed session, has already been taken care of. Item 12, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make that
Motion by Mr. Keeling. Do I have a second by Mr. Anderson? All those in favor by a show of hands? So moved.